Okay, so the White House just had a whirlwind of a week rolling out some huge policy announcements. And yeah, at first glance, they might seem all over the place, but if you look closer, there's a real pattern here. Let's dig in. I mean, we're talking about everything from new tariffs on imports to locking down our supply of critical materials and even making a pretty bold play to shape the future of AI globally. It's a lot. So, what's the big idea tying all this together? Well, that's what we're going to figure out. We're going to connect the dots using their own press releases and documents to really see the master plan they're trying to roll out. All right, let's start with the economy. This is where they made some really big waves this week, beginning with a major new barrier to trade. To really get why they made their biggest economic move, you have to understand this one concept: the balance of payments deficit. Essentially, it's when a country is sending more money out than it's taking in. And the administration is framing this as a huge problem that demands a really drastic solution.
And what's that solution? Bam, a temporary 10% tax on a whole bunch of imported goods, set to last for 150 days. And to pull this off, they're dusting off a pretty powerful old law, the Trade Act of 1974.
Now, hold on. This isn't a tax on everything. They've carved out a pretty long list of exemptions. Things like goods from Canada and Mexico, pharmaceuticals, certain electronics. The idea here is pretty clear: soften the economic blow to some really key industries. But the economic focus wasn't just about what's coming across the border. They also turn their gaze inward, releasing this pretty detailed report that takes a hard look at a major financial watchdog, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. You've probably heard of it as the CFPB. And the main argument in this report, it's a bombshell. They're claiming that since 2011, the CFPB's rules have actually cost American consumers somewhere in the ballpark of $222 to $350 billion in higher borrowing costs. That's a staggering number. And their point is that it totally dwarfs any money the agency has managed to get back for people. Okay, let's shift gears to the next big theme: national security. And here, the focus gets really specific. We're talking about making sure America can produce its own essential materials for everything from defense to our food supply. So check this out. An executive order was issued that zeroed in on one specific thing: elemental phosphorus. Why? Well, it's crucial for military stuff, like smokescreens, but it's also vital for herbicides used in farming. The problem? The US only has one company making it. The administration sees that as a huge vulnerability, so they're using the Defense Production Act to basically protect and boost our domestic supply. Of course, national security isn't just about physical stuff like chemicals anymore. It's also about the digital world, and the administration took aim at a really serious threat that's growing online. And this quote from drug czar Sarah Carter, it just hits you. It really drives home the human tragedy of the online drug trade. She shared this during a roundtable discussion at the White House with some of the biggest tech companies, all focused on one thing: how to stop the sale of deadly fentanyl on their platforms. So, now let's pull back and look at the bigger picture, the global stage. This week, officials were busy laying out their vision for America's place in the world, especially when it comes to our allies and, you guessed it, technology. This came to a head in a really big speech at the Munich Security Conference. The Secretary of State got up there and basically called for a total refresh of the transatlantic alliance, but with a new twist. It has to be based on mutual strength and, importantly, self-reliance. And a huge part of that speech was trying to redefine what America First actually means. The message was, look, this doesn't mean America alone. It means we're recalibrating our partnerships. It's about independent, sovereign nations working together because it's good for both sides. And that same idea, that focus on national sovereignty, popped up again, this time in the world of technology. At a big AI summit in India, the administration came out and flatly rejected the idea of any kind of global governance for artificial intelligence. They basically framed it as something that would just lead to bureaucracy and stifle innovation. So you might be asking, okay, if they're rejecting global rules, what's the plan? Well, they're pushing something they've dubbed the American AI Stack. It's basically a whole suite of programs designed to export American AI tech and know-how to our friends and allies. It even includes a new Tech Corps, which sounds a lot like a tech-focused version of the Peace Corps. Okay, so we've got all this big picture stuff happening on the national and global level. But how does this all get packaged and presented to regular folks back home? Well, for one, the administration jumped on some positive news about falling mortgage rates. They pointed to it as direct proof that their economic policies are working, making it easier for American families to afford a home.
And to back that up, they rattled off a whole list of positive signs in the housing market. Things like apartment rents dropping, more people applying for mortgages, and a big jump in new home construction. The message is clear. The housing market is on the rebound.
They also took this message directly to the people. For example, during a presidential trip to Georgia, the White House released some very specific numbers for that state, claiming that the average Georgian family is seeing over $3,000 in tax savings. And they didn't stop there. The message was tailored specifically for Georgia, pointing to things like gas prices being way down and highlighting a bunch of huge new investments from big-name companies, all promising to bring more jobs to the state. So when you put it all together, when you step back and look at the whole week, a pretty clear picture starts to form. You can see how all these different actions, according to the administration, are actually interconnected. Think about it. From a huge new import tax that affects global trade, all the way down to a local jobs announcement in Georgia, every single move is being presented as one piece of a giant, deliberate puzzle. It's a vision where strengthening our borders, cutting regulations, securing our own supply chains, and reshaping our relationships with allies are all meant to work together. It all paints a picture of their America First agenda. The real question is, as all these pieces are put on the board, what kind of picture will they ultimately create for everyone?